Hi everyone, this is my submission to the third edition of the Conlang Circus. My language is called... So to properly speak this language, you would actually need to play 3 different musical instruments at the same time, those being a drum set, an electric organ, and an electric guitar. The drum set must have a hi-hat cymbal, a kick drum, and a snare drum. The electric organ must be able to make chords, and the electric guitar will make melodies and solos. The actual words of the language are all represented by the beats of the drum set, while the electric organ represents grammar and grammatical relationships between the words, and the electric guitar represents proper nouns and reference indicators. So all words in this language are at C minor at 140 BPM, and the drum sounds are represented by the letters K, S, and H respectively, and they're uppercase or lowercase depending on whether it's an 8th note or a 16th note. And the chords which the organ can make are C minor, F minor, G major, F major, E flat major, A flat major, B flat major, and A flat minor. Here's the grammar portion of the video, which is going to take a while to explain. So this language doesn't actually have any verbs. It has what I like to call clauses, which are basically verbs with better, and there are only 3 of them. The equivalence clause, which represents the verb to be, the possession clause, which represents the verb to have or to contain, and the causation clause, which represents the verb to cause thing to happen. And each one of them is started by a different chord. In this case, E flat major for the equivalence, A flat major for the possession, and B flat major for the causation. And then after you started it with a chord, you're going to put the subject A, then the F minor chord to separate the subject from the object, then the object B, then a G major chord if there are any adverbs, then the adverbs, and then the C minor chord. But if there are no adverbs modifying the clause, then you just, after the object, you put the C minor chord. Here's some examples. For example, the phrase I am smart. If I want to translate, I would have to use an E flat chord, then the word for me, then F minor chord, the word for smart, and the C minor chord. And if I wanted to translate I was smart, for example, I just use E flat chord, word for me, F minor, word for smart, then a G chord, and this word, which I like to call the excuse for not having verb tenses, and then the C minor chord. So adjectives and negation in this language are very similar to clauses because they are also started by chords and ended with C minor. So to negate a phrase, you just place it in between the A flat minor chord and the C minor chord. And to modify a noun, you have to add an F major chord right after that noun and before the adjectives that modify it. Then you put all the adjectives, then you end it with a C minor chord. And chords, as I've been explaining before, it seems like they're played in between the words, but they're not. They're actually played at the same time as the words. All the chords that come before a given word are played at the same time as that word in order. If there are no chords before a word, then you're just going to continue the last chord of the previous word until there is actually a chord to be played. And if a chord is repeated twice, then you just add a 7th tone, and basically if you have C minor, E flat before a word, you're going to have C minor 7th, E flat. And if it's repeated more than twice, for example 3 times, you add a 9th, 4 times you add an 11th, and so on. So there are no pronouns in this language, so if you want to reference a same thing across multiple sentences, you must add a short melody that identifies it, and every time that word, which is representing the thing, is played, you're going to play the little tune on the guitar. And this melody can be whatever you want, but it has to be the same, and it's referencing the same thing, and different for different things. And in the romanization, I can't actually represent that, so I'm going to use a music emoji. To represent proper nouns, for example, in the translation that's the word Edward, will be translated as person, melody, F, name, then a special melody, then C minor. So this melody is just a reference indicator, but this melody is actually what represents the word Edward. It is played strictly in 16ths, and each note represents a letter from the word, and it's basically the number 1 to 26 for each letter, and then you pick the corresponding note from the natural minor scale, starting at a low C, so that spans 4 octaves to get all the numbers. So finally, this is the translation. We got right here the original text. Here we got a prototype translation and the actual Romanized translation. And here's how it sounds.